So today we're going to talk about why Americans are having less sex. Whoops. No, we're not. That's the one we just talked about. Today we're talking about how much sex should you be having. So if you want to know about why we're having less sex, it's earlier in the podcast if you've missed it live, and it should be already up on YouTube if you're finding me on YouTube. So how much sex should you be having? Great question. I wonder about this all the time. Always think about it. Does it change because of age? Does it change because of relationship type? There's so many questions. And if you want to be one of the people who gets my podcast early, you can always join me here on Patreon. And I'm going to give the first person who joins my Patreon, you know what? The first 5 people who join my Patreon, even at the $5 level, you'll get a 1-hour phone session, Skype session with me. Or if you're in the Orlando area, come right into my office. All right, so let's get back to the CNN article. So this is by Karina Storrs. And are they going to tell us who Karina Storrs is? No, they're not going to this time. So CNN, are you having enough sex? You may have wondered if you should up your bedroom activity after reading about other couples rush listen to have sex every day, or about all the health benefits of getting horizontal. And these are links to other articles by CNN if you guys want to know and read about it. And what might be welcome news for everyone exhausted from work and frazzled from kids, research suggests that you don't have to get down every day to reap the rewards of sex. Yeah, you don't have to have sex every day. If you want to, go for it. At least in terms of happiness and relationship closeness. A recent study found that although married people or people in committed relationships who had more sex tend to report feeling happier, the benefit leveled off at a sexual frequency of once a week. Those who said they did the deed 4 more times a week did not report feeling any happier than those who had trysts only weekly. So, try to read the article. And again, I'm seeing this a lot with CNN. They give us just the abstract. They don't give us a link to the actual article. And I can't even find it under my resources without ordering a copy and waiting for a paper copy. So I'll get back to this. I'm going to read this article for you guys and make another video on a future podcast to tell you if what they're saying is actually true. Because we've seen with other CNN and Time articles that they'll say our article is saying one thing or study saying one thing when it doesn't. So keep that in mind. I do think couples can end up feeling pressure to try and engage in sex as frequently as possible, said Amy Muse, a postdoctoral research studying sexual relationships at Dalhousie University in Canada. Apologies if I messed that up. Once a week is maybe a more realistic goal to set than thinking you have to have sex every day, and that feels overwhelming and you avoid it. So realistic goal, okay, once a week, yeah, it should be a realistic goal. I think once a week would be a minimum, just from a biological and neurological standpoint. I had a guilty pleasure a long time ago where I used to watch the Housewives in New Jersey, and it was Teresa's brother, Joe, I think. I don't remember the name of the guy right now, but he would tell his wife that he has to get rid of the poison, right? And she's like, "Oh, you're nasty," and it's just funny. Whatever, reality TV, it's nonsense, right? So he's being funny and it's nonsense, but this is actually true, especially for males and females. So he's saying release the poison. It's a really funny way of understanding biology and a little bit of neurology. You actually are getting rid of poisons when having sex, right? And it's a lot to do with what you do release in your body. You release anti-stress hormones such as dopamine, right? Among many other things. So when you're thinking just biology, just what changes your neuroscience and what changes your brain and what can change what the body changes you have, sex is getting rid of poison for male and females both. Funny thing heard on reality TV, but it's actually, there's a truth to it. A very deep truth to it. It's much more than just dopamine. So something interesting. Okay. The study found that sex could boost happiness because it makes people feel more satisfied in their relationship based on the survey data from 2 separate cohorts, including 2,400 married couples in the U.S. National Survey of Family Households. Okay, so this seems to be becoming a big study. For people in relationships, the romantic relationship quality is one of the biggest predictors of overall happiness. Yeah, and for the relationships to stay together. We know that couples who don't see each other as friends most likely to divorce. Gottman has a great book about that. The Gottman studies. I think they're in Seattle. Wonderful to learn about what actually works and doesn't work in relationships, so you can totally cut through the nonsense that you hear from, not total nonsense. I'm not totally saying these groups are full of crap completely, but there's a lot of crap in a lot of group. So you can like sift through the crap we hear from psychology, from sociology, from psychoanalysis, from MGTOW, red pill, blue pill, purple pill, and from all the ways of feminism. They all have some truth to it, just like that reality show guy talking about the poison. But there's also a lot of ideology within every group. You can't get away from ideology. So this Gottman study is really good. I mean, they are psychologists, but they're doing the best with research, and they're doing 40 years of research on statistics. I gotta find a book. I have the book somewhere around here, but yeah, that was a long-winded way to say yes. However, there are a couple of rubs with this research. You said one is that it is not clear which came first, sex or happiness. I'm gonna say that happiness comes first. Just from the research that we've seen through the 40 years of Gottman studies, and just the research in psychoanalysis and psychology, I don't know why they're saying research is not clear. It's not definitive. No research will ever be definitive. But happiness comes first. We know those who are friends, and not that like, oh, they were friends for 5 years and they got married, but they have a friendship within the relationship and they treat each other as friends, not as lovers. The happiness comes and good sex comes, and good sex lasts. On top of that, it's not just about having good sex for a few months or a year. It lasts. Maybe that people who have sex once a week or more were happier in their relationships. Okay, yeah, this could be true. And life to begin with. So happy people might have more sex and are happier about their sex than miserable people. Okay. And not that sex help them become happy. Yeah. We know the idea that sex won't make you happier, work won't make you happier, buying a lot of crap won't make you happier, kids and having kids won't make you happier. We always think that the external things will make us happier, and that's nonsense. If you're not the center of your life, if you're not the center and focus of your life, you're never gonna be happy. And we could debate if you ever should be happy and what happiness is and all that, but you'll never be satisfied. I'll use the word satisfied, and you won't ever have and create enough meaningfulness to ever be satisfied or happy. Should talk about that a little bit later. Someone remind me in the comments below to expound on that, because I'll forget. The other catch is that although a weekly romp might be just what people need, it might be too much or too little for others. Okay. Certainly, there are couples for whom having sex less frequently will be fine for their happiness, and there are couples who will get increased in happiness if their sex more than once a week. Okay, so this article is just saying, I don't know, at least once a week, but maybe less, maybe more. This is not helpful whatsoever. Okay, maybe they're going to be helpful. What's the right number for you? One of the best effects of an article like this by Muse and her colleagues is that it opens up conversation with couples. Okay, conversation is okay. You should have these conversations, but if you're just talking about it forever and doing nothing about it, the conversation's resistance to conversation is useless and garbage. Sex service in Berlin. For some couples, the question of how often they should have sex might not have come up. Yeah, you have to at least talk about this once, but don't talk about it forever, which could be a sign that they feel sufficiently close and satisfied, or the completely opposite, closed off and dissatisfied, which I feel like will be more likely. We're avoidant creatures by nature, and that's a great defense we have. Avoid, 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 avoid. So I don't know me and I don't know you. Because when we know ourselves and we know someone else, it totally defeats our narcissism. Then we have to realize that the person we're with is actually a real person with real feelings, and we can't treat them like shit anymore. Just like we can't treat ourselves like crap anymore at that point. It's a really big blow to our ego. Freud talked a lot about that. or that they are just too busy or disconnected to think about it. Okay, most couples want to be having more sex, and I think this is really a result of how busy our lives are. No, it's not. Believe me, if we want to do something, we will find a way to do it. Marion avoids prescribing the amount of sex that couples should have. This is great because every couple is different, and instead recommends couples test it out for themselves. I'm a big fan of having clients experiment, like 1 month, try to have sex twice a week and see how that goes, or once a week. Try to play around with it, Marion said. It's a good experiment, not long term, but maybe I'll get some data out of it if you're having this issue. It's going to be really hard to commit to it and have the other person agree to it too. That's a whole other obstacle. As for those lucky couples that are content with how often they get busy under the sheets, one study suggests they may not want to change a thing. Researchers asked couples that were having sex about 6 times a month to double down on getting down. Couples that doubled their sexual frequency were in worse moods and enjoyed sex less at the end of the 3 months than couples who had stuck with their usual level of bedroom activity. We don't know if this is about the sex or not, or this is about being forced to do something. If we're forced to do something, we just don't like it. If we can do something naturally out of ourselves and it comes out of something constructive and not something hostile, being forced to do it doesn't mean that more sex is bad. That's not a good way of figuring that out. Correlation and causation problem right here. Being told you should do something always makes it less fun. Okay, well, they know it. Okay, great. We're on the same page. Says George Lowenstein. Apologies if I messed it up. A professor of economics and psychology at Carnegie Mellon University and the lead author of the study. Fair. This is another reason Marin does not make recommendations to couples about sexual frequency. Yes, never. I would never make a recommendation. We'll talk about it. We'll figure it out. For the fear they could worry that they're not living up to the expectations and lose their mojo. Yeah. This is one thing. When you have expectations that you don't want to do, you're flooded with all the anxiety hormones just from a biological level. We're even ignoring psychological things about it that can come in with past traumas for male and females, or ways of living, or how they think about authority. I mean, a million things there. So, yeah, that's why it's hard to say, hey, let's just have more sex. It's actually not going to work. The question should be, why are we not having more sex? And why am I not having more sex and doing the things to have more sex? And why are you not? And people should really figure that out for themselves in an individual way. And the partner does the same thing. And then they come together to talk about it. Then you can work on this problem together. I really don't like the idea of, oh, there's a problem, let's both try to figure it out, because you guys are already cooperative in the resistance to sex and not having sex, and when you try to talk it out, you're just going to stay in that repetition of being cooperative, and you'll throw each other all over the place and never deal what's actually being dealt with. This is why I have a hard time with couples therapy. If the couple themselves aren't an individual themselves, it doesn't work as well. It just doesn't. Okay, however, there's a far bigger relationship problem than couples worrying they are not having quite enough sex. Couples that have pretty much stopped having sex. Lowenstein said, for these couples, I think once a week is a good final goal. Oof, that feels rough, right? It is almost like a natural constant to do it once a week, he said. This makes me sad. Making something a habit like that just to survive. Yeah, that sucks. Even if the abstinence couples want to be having more sex, they may lack the desire for their partner. That's a big problem. These couples can try conventional strategies such as scheduling more quality time together or trying to change in scenery. These things work short term, actually. What couple has not had the experience that you go to a hotel in a new location, in a new environment, and the person you're with seems different? This is why I was talking about this article or the last article. Can't remember. It's about curiosity and making someone new and being new yourself, right? That's what really engages and creates passion and lust. That's what the beginning of a relationship is, right? When you are new, you don't know the other person, and you don't know how you're going to interact with this other person's, oh my gosh, I acting crazy, whatever. You're in lust, right? You're having a great time, and you're high on the crack of a new relationship. When you go to another place on a vacation, you regain that because the person's in a new environment. You see them differently. You don't see them pasted on the same, background of the house, the car, with the kids, whatever. You allow yourself to see them new. And this is a problem we have in long-term relationships where we can't do this at home. Being curious about your partner and being curious about yourself. We just don't know how to do this, and we've never been trained to do this. It's a big problem with schooling, from pre-K all the way up to doctorate. You're never really taught to be an individual for the most part, and to be curious about yourself. It's just do as you're said. Okay, but if these tricks aren't enough, couples may have to appeal to their rational rather than lustful side and tell themselves to just do it. This doesn't work. No, this is garbage advice. Rationality does not work. This breeds content. Immediately will breed content. Do this if you want to destroy your relationship. These couples might be surprised how enjoyable it would be if they restarted, Holstein said. No. The rational and just do it, it doesn't make sense. You have to have a major change if you're not having sex or enough sex. Like, we see this with the vacation stuff that we just talked about, but I've seen this a lot with couples who divorce, and then boom, they're having crazy sex again after they just divorced. Now they saw someone new, right, during the divorce. A lot of divorces are very sticky and they evoke a lot of feelings, let's say negative and positive. A lot of negative gets acted out. Then when that's done, you saw something new. This person's a new person, and that can be very exciting for some couples who divorce, and boom, they just engage in sex again. So we're seeing this over and over and over again in the research and in case studies, that it's about curiosity about yourself and the other, which is another way of saying friendship, right? Just to make it easier, which creates more sex or satisfying sex, right? Should you schedule your sex? No. For some couples, scheduling sex works really well, gets them something to look forward to. They like the anticipation. They like feeling prioritized. Someone tell me if this has worked for you long term. I'm talking about like years. This has worked very short term to create some feelings and to get back to the mood, but I've never seen this as a long-term solution. This goes back to, it becomes from anticipation to content. Being like, here it goes again. That happens a lot. Marin said. Then other couples say scheduling sex feels horrible to them. Yeah, and this is kind of where it always ends up when you schedule anything. Again, Marin recommends couples experiment with scheduling sex to see if it helps, and that's fair. Experiment. So we're gonna skip. Oh, I guess we're not skipping. A good idea for all couples, whether they like the idea of scheduling sex, is to plan for quality time together. So this is a little bit better. You have to plan for quality time. You can't just work, school, kids, and then like meet up in the bedroom and expect something to happen. You don't know that person anymore. They're not even real in your mind anymore. They're just like who you think they are. They aren't really who they are in your mind at that point. So this would be about 20 minutes a day with the TV off and cell phones away. Yeah, get rid of technology. But for extra busy couples, it can help to reserve just 5 minutes a day for tete-a-tete. What? TT-a-TT? Never heard that. Okay. So my bad. Someone tell me what that is. This time is also the container for sex. The time and privacy when sex can be initiated, but you don't have to feel pressure about it, she added. Yeah, the pressure thing's the issue. Although scheduling sex can help couples that want to be having sex, but just can't find the time, it can make things worse for them. If there are relationship issues or psychological issues such as stress or anxiety, then scheduling sex might add to that pressure, yes. So this is what I've been talking about. If there's something going on with you, the symptoms of what's going on with you will fall into the relationship. And one really clear symptom is the lack of sex or painful sex or not wanting to engage in sex or the avoidance of sex. It's one great symptom to say, hey man, something's going on with me that I'm ignoring, and I should really take care of myself. We're so anti taking care of ourselves and taking care of everyone else. We'll kill ourselves at work or with our kids or with our friends and never even pay attention to ourselves. We love to martyr ourselves as humans. Yeah, I mean, in psychoanalysis, this idea of martyring ourselves or victimizing ourselves has a lot to do with our narcissism. That means we can see ourselves as a good person and not as a bad person. So this is a lot about like our ego ideal. We say that we should ideally just be a good person and selfless and all this stuff. But it's really a very narcissistic thing because we're doing for others really for our own gain and our own psychological gain. It could be to our financial and physical detriment, but it's to this in our mind. We think we're awesome at that point, and poor me, look, I'm so awesome, but look how bad my life is. It doesn't have to go that far, but this is something psychoanalytical going on in our minds unconsciously, which can talk about a little bit of why this happens for some people. Okay, as for when to schedule the sex, the best time is probably the time when you're least likely to be pulled away by life obligations. One of the perks of rise and shine sex is that testosterone levels are highest in the morning, and this hormone drives sexual desire, and this is in both men and women. On the other hand, tuck you in sex could help you lull you to sleep, as hormones released during orgasm could help you relax and feel tired, and this is true for men and women also. According to Muse, the participants in her research typically report having sex at night before going to sleep, which is not that surprising, but it has to work for both parties. This is another point of negotiation between partners, Muse said. One of them is just too exhausted. That might be something to play around with. Is there a time on the weekend that we could try instead? So that's a good question to ask, right? This is a great leading question to end this article with. I really like that question. All right, so this is an article. CNN's going to be down below, link down below, so you can read the full article and look at the different articles that they link. How much sex should you be having? So what do you guys think? More sex, less sex? Why don't we have sex? Let's forget this question, really. This is not the question. Why is there an avoidance to sex? I gave you some ideas about psychoanalysis and why we avoid sex when I talked about being a martyr and the victimizer. What do you guys think? So hit me up again. Thank you to all my Patreons and everyone in my closed Facebook group. If you want to join that, links will be down below. And we're going to move on to the next article. Actually, it's going to be a r/ask a therapist question that I'm going to be working with here in a minute. So if you're live with me or in the full podcast, just give me 1 second and I'll be back and we'll head up with this one. All right.